we have a lovely crowd here today. We're really delighted that you've all decided to join us for to hear about this exciting new initiative that's going to be coming to PICO. My name is Nathan Miller. I'm going to serve as the moderator for the evening. We want to thank you for joining us to learn about the village. Inspired by ETTA, this is a revolutionary apartment community designed for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in mind. Cornerstone Housing for Adults with Disabilities recently closed escrow on 9224 West Pico Boulevard in Beverlywood for the development of the village. Properties here in Los Angeles. It was a major deal, and it was only made possible. This feat was only made possible because of the support of several very generous donors within the community, and I'd like to acknowledge them now. We wouldn't be here today without them. So I want to recognize our founding board members: Cam Baboff, Eric Shorts, John Glazer, Scott Krieger, and joining us on this call as a panelist, Kathy Gott. They helped together with their passion and dedication and hard work, brought this vision for the village to life, which you'll hear about tonight. We're thrilled to have several really esteemed guests participate in today's conversation. I'd like to introduce each of them now. We have Dr. Michael Held, who is a senior advisor at Cornerstone and the executive director of ETTA, which has been a leading service provider for people with an IDD since 1993. Kathy Gott, as we mentioned, is a board member of Cornerstone. She's devoted her professional career to finding solutions for the special needs community. She's a member of the Los Angeles County Commission on Disabilities, a senior consultant for government relations at ETTA, and a board member of the Spectrum Works. Later this evening, we're also going to hear from Kathy's son, Danny, who has been diagnosed on the autism spectrum. Also joining us on the panel tonight is Richard Solares, the founder of the Urban Architecture Lab, and Iwa Opasinski, who's the principal at Urban Architecture Lab, who together they are the architects for the village. We're also joined by Sam Yabri, a Los Angeles lawyer and community activist, who's currently a candidate for the LA City Council. Sam has served on the leadership of many nonprofit and public service organizations in Los Angeles and within the Jewish community more broadly. Would also like to welcome Jenny Savitsky, a longtime Los Angeles realtor and community organizer, who is a supporter of JDRF, Shane's Inspiration, making parks accessible for children with disabilities, and various other children's organizations. We're going to hear from all of these speakers throughout the evening about the opportunity that the village represents. And at the end of the conversation, we're going to open the floor for a few questions from the audience. My team at Miller Inc. will be monitoring the questions, and will share them with me, and then I'll pose them to the speakers at the end of the Q&A segment. So please feel free to submit questions anytime, and we will get to as many as we can during our Q&A segment. But before we do that, we want to hear from our panelists. So we want to start with Dr. Held. We want to just start by asking Dr. Held, what led to the vision for the village, and why is it so important now?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Nate, for the introduction. It's an honor to be on this panel and to be part of this vision and dream that is now beginning to come true. So let me just take you back. I have a few minutes apportioned for my part of the panel, and just mention that the location on Pico and Glenville, says a lot about the vision that we have and the vision of what we're trying to create. The ETTA Israel Center, many of you recall that name before we morphed into ETTA. ETTA Israel Center was founded in 1993, and we were named after a woman, Mrs. ETTA Israel, who was a special education teacher and was a member of the Beverlywood, Beverly Hills community, and a member of the congregation Beth Jacob for her lifetime. She was the very first special education teacher in a Jewish day school in Los Angeles, starting in 1961. So those are the roots that brought us to where we are in 2020. How did these intervening 60 years, how did they connect? Well, I only have a couple of minutes, so I'll leap, jump, and pull together the threads to say that everyone who knew Mrs. Israel understood her devotion, her dedication, her love of human beings. And she did not differentiate what type of intelligence or what type of communication abilities or what type of challenges people had. She loved people. And when she passed away, she left a little bit of money in the early 1990s, and we were able to start the ETTA Israel Center. And like every special education program, we started with 3 students. And from that came 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30, 40. Today, ETTA Israel Center, known as ETTA, is serving 175 clients in the Los Angeles community. And when we complete this vision of the village, this beautiful building, God willing, we will be able to support another 50 people in housing. Now, what does it, let me come back because of the brevity of time, let me come back to the thread. Why does it matter that we're building this beautiful building, this first-class building in Pico? And the answer is that it's not a real estate project. We are building community. Now, there's a word that's very popular today and has been around for about a decade or more called inclusion. Inclusion is a concept and a movement to bring together people who have disabilities and people who are neurodevelopmentally typical. And there's a reason for doing that. The reason for doing it is that it enriches everyone's life. Everyone benefits and prospers by contact with different sorts of people. The essence of any type of program, like what ETTA has done, and ETTA then spun off the development of this new nonprofit called Cornerstone Housing for Adults with Disabilities. Cornerstone is actually the entity that owns this property on Pico, where we're building the village. The connection is that we're looking at who the human beings are, you and me, the neighborhood of Pico Robertson, of Beverlywood, of Beverly Hills. And we want to bring to the community a first-class opportunity for supported independent apartment living, where people with disabilities and people without disabilities can interact and grow together and foster an even richer, more intensely meaningful life and community. I know from my career that families who have a child with a special need, and this project is oriented to those special needs that are a little bit more independent on the spectrum. But I know from my experience with families that their greatest fear is that their adult will be alone, that their adult will not have friends, that their adult will not have a meaningful life, a job, activities, and so forth. This village is a transformational and inspirational model that will completely allay those fears, give parents and families hope, and give our neighborhood in Beverlywood something to be inspired by. So let me stop at that point. We have some wonderful panelists who are going to share more about our dreams and hopes, and pass it back to you, Nate.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Helder, for that those inspiring words and just the inspiring vision that you've laid out for the village. I want to drill down a little bit now with Kathy to get a little more specific. So Kathy, will you just share with our group, what makes the village different from other housing options for people with IDD?
Thank you, Nate, and thank you, Dr. Held. Just my heart's so full because to carry on this legacy that so many of you have created is a real honor. So thank you. While most adults with intellectual developmental disabilities live with their parents, and there are some wonderful services and supports available to people who do live at home, it's not really a great long-term solution for everyone because sometimes siblings are able to care for their loved one when the parents pass, but it's not always optimal, and a lot of parents don't really want to burden one of the siblings with such a big responsibility, and it just depends on family to family. So right now there are 3 main options for independent living in the community for adults with disabilities. Some can afford to rent an apartment for their adult child and have some supports available if necessary. There are group homes, just ETTA has some wonderful group homes, and that is certainly an option. And there are low income units required for new construction, and people with developmental disabilities are in that catchment area, but it's a lot of competition for those apartments. So the village is different because it's really, it's designed for the needs of adults with developmental disabilities in mind, but it's a really lovely, high-end, beautiful apartment building in a beautiful neighborhood, and in the heart of Los Angeles, with so many wonderful opportunities. And you know, it's not really about a building or having a roof over your head. It's about creating and supporting relationships between residents and the people from and around the neighborhood. And that's what makes it so special, so exciting. And we have so much support around us. And we have a retail space coming in on the ground floor. So it's even in the lease. And however, the potential tenants are more than willing to provide a vocational opportunity for those who choose to do that. And we're just so excited that it's happening. So thank you. Great question. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. Thank you so much. So now we want to turn it over to the project architects, to Richard Solaris and Iwa Opasinski. And I think that they would like to maybe share their screens and walk us through some of the key design features that make this complex so unique and supportive for folks with IDD. So let's turn it over to Iwa and Richard.
Great. You're able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hello, everybody, and thank you for having us. Again, I'm Richard Solaris, president of Urban Architecture Lab, and Eva Opasinski is here as well, and she is the project architect and leading our team internally on the project and doing an amazing job. And so for us, we got involved with the project almost a year ago now, and we're very excited to be involved with it. Our practice specializes in multifamily housing and mixed use, and so this is something that's right up our alley. But more importantly, when we heard the mission and the ideas about what it is that they're trying to build here, I think that really got us excited. And it's something that hit close to home because one of our employees who will be working on the project as well actually has a developmentally challenged brother, and so she's lived with this all her life and really knows and has offered a lot of insights between her and her family in terms of what that really means on a day-to-day basis. So I think internally it's been something that's really exciting for our team as well, and really inspiring. So with that said, I'll walk you through the plans really quickly and the design of the building to give everybody a better idea. And so starting on the ground floor, so Pico is at the top, Glenville is on your left here. And so as Kathy was mentioning, we have a large retail space on the ground floor that has multiple entrances. And the retail space, I guess what we could say now is it will be a bakery and ethnic food shop, but that's about all we could say for now. But I think the exciting thing is, as Kathy was saying, that vocational opportunities for some of the residents will be offered here, which I think is amazing, where basically where you live and where you work is in the same area. So we're really excited about that. On the ground floor, the residential entry is off of Glenville Drive, which you'll see a little bit better in the renderings, but it's a separate entry with elevators and stairs going up above. And then, as you can see here, we have a ramp down to 2 levels of parking down below the property. And the other thing we'd like to point out is we're really providing lots of bike parking and alternative transportation opportunities within the building as well. And then we also have a commercial dedicated elevator to take you up from the parking levels up to the street level and into the retail commercial spaces. And this is a second level of parking. And then now going up to the second level, this is what I think will be the, kind of heart of the project. And this is where all amenity services and support services are going to be offered for the project. And so right now there's a commissary kitchen, we have laundry areas, fitness areas, communal dining areas, activity rooms that can be partitioned and divided and made larger and smaller for different size events, living spaces, conference rooms, office and management area. So really a lot going on here. And I think the residents are going to spend a lot of time in this area. I think the other thing we're pointing out is we have a large terrace area on the south and west sides of the property, which will all be landscaped. And this is a conceptual design of the landscape area. And so this is going to provide lots of landscaped areas and multiple levels of the building. Something that we try to do in every one of our urban projects is to provide outdoor space so that people can actually experience the outdoors, experience nature while being in the middle of the city. So this is something that's very important to the project and we're very excited about. On the upper levels, the building is basically a U-shaped design with a south-facing open courtyard, and the units wrap around. And so some are on the interior facing the courtyard, others are around facing the street. And there are 64 units, and there's a combination of studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedrooms that'll accommodate different living conditions and different people's needs, whether they have a roommate, whether they have a caregiver, or whether they're living independently. So we wanted to work with ETTA and make sure we can provide different living accommodations. And then here's a concept design of the courtyard, which will also be landscaped, and it's up on the 3rd level now, which will actually have some views to the south. So that's an idea of that courtyard area. And then as you go up, there's also other communal areas on some of the successive floors going up as well that overlook the courtyard. And then the other thing we're really excited about is our rooftop. So our rooftop is going to have a really large open space deck. And we've strategically placed this away from the community to the south of us and placed it up toward Pico. And what that does is also offers great views of south, looking toward places like Culver City and being able to see Catalina because we're so high up, and also amazing views of downtown. But this area is going to have multiple, made up of multiple outdoor rooms, if you will, for different activities. So game areas, lounging areas, a fire pit, outdoor barbecue, and an outdoor dining area, as well as gardens up on the rooftop. So we're very excited about the open space opportunities, which I think in an urban environment are so refreshing, especially now in the age of COVID. I think everybody is really appreciating their private open space so much more. So that is all built into the project, and this will give you an idea of how much open space we have once you layer it on each other. And we're really trying to, provide as much open space as we can for the project. So moving to the exterior, so the design is a modern design, and I think one of the things that we were trying to do is what I would consider classic architectural language, where you have base, middle, and top. And I think that's something that helps break down visually the building into kind of component pieces. And so what you see here is lots of glass and lots of openings within the ground floor retail area that really provide street activation and connection to the pedestrian experience. On the second level here, again, all glass, and this is the communal areas and activity areas, which will have lots of views to the exterior, lots of natural light surrounding it, as well as the open space. And then the residential components up at the top with the roof deck up here. And so I think the exciting thing about this architecturally is, the client directive was, we want a first-class building, we want the highest quality materials, and we want good design. And I think all those things are going to be captured in this design of this building, and we're really excited about it. And I think the other thing you could see here, as I mentioned, is the residential entry, which is a 2-story residential lobby off of Glenville. And then here's our main facade along Pico. And again, lots of glass along the street frontage with lots of pedestrian activity and opportunities for outdoor dining. Lots of glass on the second floor and the residential above. So that is the building and the initial vision, and we're really excited to help it become a reality with the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else to add, Richard or you? Or can we move it along? That sounds all right. Yep. Great. Thank you. So actually, I want to now move back to Dr. Held and actually address a question that I'm already seeing come up in the Q&A, and that's, you know, what supportive features and services will the village be providing?
Well, thanks for directing it to me. I want to invite Kathy as well to jump in on this. You know, the whole idea of person-centered planning is that each individual has his or her own ideas of what is needed. So ETTA, again, just to point out to folks that this village belongs to this nonprofit entity we've created called Cornerstone, but ETTA is the catalyst for Cornerstone. ETTA is a service provider, and we are available. There are other service providers that are available as well. What services will those be? It really will depend on what individuals need. Some individuals don't need services and support. Some need a little bit, some might need more. So in terms of conducting one's life, if you're a 25-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 45-year-old, you know, it's an individual person-centered planning kind of situation. However, given that, what we're envisioning in many opportunities for socialization within the building. There's probably nothing more key than developing social opportunities for individuals who will be living in this building. And we do that through the beautiful design that Richard was just walking us through on the second floor. The dining area, there's a demonstration kitchen where residents can develop and develop their skills in preparing food and cooking. There's a demonstration workshop laundry where, again, residents can improve their skills in doing laundry. There's a gym, recreational areas, recreational activities. Now, a lot of those will be self-generated by the residents themselves. They will decide what kinds of activities they want, and then organizations like ETTA and others from the community might volunteer and get involved to help make those dreams come true for each individual. It's also expected that nearly everyone in the building will have some vocational opportunity, whether that's something that we assist in providing or something they find on their own. And something special about the Beverlywood community is the tremendous number of synagogues and other outlets for volunteer opportunities, where people want to be part of the community by really being included in volunteer activities. Kathy, do you want to add something to that?
Well, I would just add that, you know, every resident will have their own key to their own apartment that is their space to design, their space to reside, their space to have company, their space to, you know, leave and go out, in and out as they please. This is not congregant living. This is a very modern way of living. And while there will be communal meals offered and a variety of options, and, you know, it's really going to be, like Dr. Held said, you know, very resident driven, and, you know, people get to decide what they want. We're not deciding anything for anyone. So everybody has a lot of choice. And that thrills me, because when you think about the evolution of how persons with intellectual developmental disabilities were treated and served just a generation ago, it makes me cry just how far we've come. And this is an example of really forward thinking, and it's a pleasure. So very exciting. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kathy. I'd like to now move to Sam and to Jenny and bring them into the conversation, and, you know, and to ask each of them to speak to the significance of the location of the village. Why do each of you think it's so important to have a property serving a population in the way it's planning to do it with this model Why do you think it's so important to have it in the heart of Los Angeles and the heart of Pico at this, the Pico and Glenville as it will be? Maybe Sam, could you start, and then we'll go to Jenny.
Sure. I think as we heard, this project is not just inspiring, but badly needed in our city. Los Angeles in general needs more housing. Pico and Beverlywood and the Pico Robertson area needs more housing. And the community of individuals with developmental and intellectual differences need housing. So this village just addresses those needs. But what makes it incredibly powerful and exciting is that this village is an urban neighborhood, which provides its residents with the independence and opportunities to live and work and connect with the broader community. And that broader community is largely the Jewish community, which will create opportunities for engagement, for volunteer opportunities. It's truly a blessing that this revolutionary village that will create this supportive and inclusive independent living is in the heart of Jewish Los Angeles. And our hope is that the Jewish community will embrace this village, treat it like a hub and a community center for the entire community. But to realize that vision, it's important that we all embrace this project. And it's not just a real estate project, it really is, we're building community. And I hope that the entire Beverlywood and the larger Jewish community embraces and supports this project as we learn more, because it truly is, it has the potential to transform this part of Los Angeles, and it could be a model for all of Los Angeles.
Wonderful, thank you, Sam. Jenny, please.
Yeah, my name is Jenny, and I have a 22-year-old daughter that's on the spectrum. And my husband and I have gone all over the state looking at different places for our daughter to move in. We wanted her to be independent. We wanted her to be amongst other people and live her own life and work and, cohabitate with other people and just live how we do, but independently. When this opportunity came up, it was just around the corner. I live in Beverlywood, as I said. This is a unit complex for 50 people. The young adults that'll be using it, it's an incredible location. They can walk everywhere. Most of these young adults most likely will not be driving. So they can walk to the shuls, they can walk to the stores, they can walk to the dry cleaners, and it creates such an independence for them. There's going to be an opportunity for them to work or volunteer in the retail stores that will be below, which 20% of people with disabilities are working. The other 80% aren't. And we're hoping to increase that percentage because most of these kids are able to work, our young adults, excuse me. So it's just a fabulous opportunity. And to tag Sam, this is going to be the model for the country. This is the first of its kind. We've looked at a lot of housing complexes, and this by far is going to set the example in the country. And I'm very excited that I can walk there.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I want to just briefly bring another esteemed guest to our conversation, and that is Kathy's son, Danny. Kathy, would you mind just introducing Danny to the audience?
Sure. This is Danny Gott, and Danny is 28 and just 27. I track. We have 6 kids, so come on. And Danny has a petting farm called Danny's Farm, and he's just a really terrific young man. And he said, strongly considering making the village his resident because it's his choice, of course.
Maybe if we could have Danny share a few words. Danny, you've heard a lot about the village. You're very active in the ETTA, community and, in the community at large. And, what excites you about the village?
Just getting to know everybody, being in a community where everybody's accepted for who they are.
What would an apartment building like this mean to you and your friends, Danny?
Just having our own space to have fun and enjoy ourselves and just enjoy ourselves, have a good time.
Thank you so much, Danny.
Any more questions?
Anything else you would want to share to folks who want to kind of think about, what this is going to mean for Pico and for LA and for the community? What's it going to mean for you and your friends?
I have a feeling. Well, I have a feeling this is just going to be a great thing that everybody's going to be everyone's going to be living with someone who's like them, like as opposed to just living in a neurotypical environment. Because there's a bit of a growing problem where people are often bullied just because they have autism. I think the village will help end that.
That's amazing. Danny, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And if maybe have Danny hang around, and if there's some other questions, we'll maybe pull him in later. Thank you so much, Danny. I want to now broaden out that's an individual perspective, and you can just imagine how, for everybody who gets the opportunity to live in the village, that they're going to have that same experience that Danny just shared so movingly. I want to broaden it out and ask all our panel before we go on. How do you see this? And there's been some conversation around this already. How does this model fundamentally transform the way we think about inclusion in your industry or in our community or in our broader society? Why is this model so revolutionary, and why is it so important? Maybe we'll start with Kathy.
Wow, I love that question. The value of, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so biased, because any of our kids, Jenny's daughter, could have done the same thing that Danny did, and I would feel the same for all. The warmth, the genuine, just authentic people that are those with developmental differences that don't have a lot of the same sort of hang-ups that we have. What that brings to our community is so lovely and so rich. When Danny was born and then was diagnosed, I had a grief process, and thank goodness, I came to acceptance when he was quite young. But beyond acceptance is embracing and loving, and I wouldn't change a thing, because it's made me better. And I think that's true for a lot of us. So that's pretty transformative. Thank you.
Beautiful. Dr. Held, maybe you could go next. What does this mean? Why is this such a pioneering model?
Very moved listening to Kathy and Jenny and Danny. We all build our lives with pivotal moments that resonate and help guide us. And I'm thinking of two pivotal moments in the life of the Beverlywood community, the Jewish community, and in my own personal life. One was that the namesake of ETTA, Mrs. ETTA Israel, she had to retire in 1983. She had been teaching for 22 years, the same kids. And what happened was she got old. She couldn't keep teaching them. So what happened to those kids? They were all neighborhood kids, and almost all of them were put into quote unquote placement. They went to a program 40 miles from their home. And so they had been embraced and included in a community, and now, just because of the lack of support and services, they were separated from their community. And as their parents and family members aged, they really were lost to their family and to their community. That really has been a driving force in my life to understand how important inclusion is. A second thought that comes to mind was more recent, although it's still 20 years ago. One of the Beverlywood families said to me, well, we send all our kids to Jewish day school in the neighborhood, but our son with special needs, he gets the yellow school bus that comes and picks him up and takes him to a special ed program 15 miles away. And she told me the special ed program was great. She had tremendous admiration for the teachers. She said, but my son wanted to know, why couldn't he be in school with his brothers and sisters? So this building really brings a fulfillment of the dream that our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters, our friends and relatives can stay in their neighborhood where they grew up, where they're comfortable, where their friends will be, and not artificially separated because they have a disability and therefore have to seek housing somewhere else. It's really bringing things home. And for the community to galvanize around this, for the neighborhood to embrace it, for the synagogues and the residents and the homeowners, and the youth groups to express their love and commitment means that we will transform this community.
If I can just add one point, Nate, to that, just to build off of what Dr. Held said, we talk a lot about the service and this need that we're meeting for these folks who have intellectual and developmental differences. We don't talk enough about the impact it'll have for our community, for the rest of us, right? That if you've spoken to anyone who's ever volunteered at ETTA or some of the other organizations in the community, or the Special Olympics or the broader community, it leaves a life-altering, transformative impact on you, right? It creates that gratitude, that sense of purpose in your life, and to help others. And I think that be able to create this housing opportunity for folks who need it and who are going to thrive because of it, coupled with the ripples it'll have in the community, this is going to a game changer and a win-win for everyone. And I think that our community, whether it's the Beverlywood Pico Robertson community or the Jewish community or all of Los Angeles, will be better because of this, because the village will be built right here. And this is just, I can't wait for this to be a reality. And I think to create an opportunity and a hub for everyone, regardless of your background, regardless of your differences and your abilities, to walk into that village and be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Thank you, Sam. Jenny or Richard or you, anything you want to share?
I could just say, you know, this is part of educating the community. And I think that the community as a whole needs a lot of education about young adults with special needs. And they have so much to give and so much to contribute. And again, I think this as a model will start educating the community as a whole to see that, you know, these young adults have a lot to offer and we can include them in our community. We don't have to put them aside to, 40 miles away or 15 miles away. And it'll benefit all the families and all the communities around. I mean, it's just, but it's, we have our work cut out for us because a lot of people are going to be watching this. A lot of community members are going to be watching this. And I think that we're on a great track I think it's going to be amazing. I think the foundation is set. Michael Held is just amazing, and he's going to bring forth an amazing program within our community.
One thing, if I can add, from the architect's perspective, me and Richard, we have worked on many projects, many multifamily projects together in the past. And this project is special in many aspects, but it's super special because I don't recall ever working on a project where the entire floor is dedicated to common spaces. Spaces that are meant to bring people together, to inspire people, where people feel comfortable, where they feel invited, and a place where they want to hang out. And the entire floor is dedicated to common spaces. There's meeting spaces, there's dining spaces, there's going to be offices to provide services. And that is special. I can't think of any other project that has that programming aspect of it. So that's really great.
Thank you so much.
Feeling like I missed an opportunity, and I know that we have, again, an audience who's listening and watching, and everyone has individual reasons for being interested and passionate about this. I just want to take a moment to say that the people who have donated money made a special commitment that fulfills the dream that each of the panelists is talking about. Namely, that in the United States, there are a few programs like this, but none are situated in the heart of an urban community. And in order to put it in the heart of an urban community, it costs a lot more money than putting it in the suburbs or exurbs or even in rural areas where some programs have been built for special populations, people on the spectrum, very interesting, creative programs. Jenny, you were mentioning how you visited many programs. But this coalescence of board members and generous donors in the Los Angeles community really has focused in on the fact that we are not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. It's going to be right on Pico and Glenville. If any of you have ever eaten at Pat's and looked out the window, within a couple of years, you're going to be looking at the village. If any of you have sat inside Label's table, I'm sorry. It's not going to be there. But hopefully everyone will find a joy in the fact that our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters, our friends and relatives will be close to home and building and contributing to the vitality of this neighborhood.
Thank you so much, Dr. Held. We've had well over 100 participants for most of this conversation. So there's clearly a lot of interest and excitement around this project. It's really wonderful. And we have a number of questions. Before we get to them, I just want to give Kathy a moment to briefly share how you can get involved, because I know some folks may not want to stick around for the whole Q&A session. But if people want to get involved with the village, what are the opportunities to do so, Kathy?
Well, thank you. And we have a terrific website, and I know that a lot of links will be provided at the end of the webinar and also sent to each of the participants. So you don't have to grab a pencil. But helping us spread the word and get dialogue going, getting people talking about it is hugely important. Information sharing. Follow us on social media, and again, the links will be up. We also have a newsletter that it's really comprehensive, and we'll always announce the next development that's happening, and it's really important to sign up for that, and you'll have a link to that. And if you're able to join our growing list of donors, I'm not afraid to ask, because we need this. We're going to make it happen. And we've already raised a lot of money, but we need more. And don't be surprised if you hear from me. Thank you,
Kathy. It truly takes a village to build a village like this. And we're very excited. First of all, this community response is really overwhelming to have so many folks here. And it's very exciting. So I now want to go to some of the questions. If we don't get to your question, we will do our best to get to everything that's been submitted, but if not, we can follow up at a later time. But let's just start. I think this should be for Kathy or Dr. Held. Will all the units be occupied by people with special needs?
No, it will not. This is a model of inclusion. So it will have neurotypical people and people with differences.
Sort of a follow-up to that, who qualifies for residency at the village, and how do you qualify?
You want to take that, Michael, or? Well, I mean, the best answer to give to the community is that the formal admissions criteria have not been fully hammered out at this point. We can say that this is a building for individuals who, it's called supported independent living. So the individuals will need to be able to fulfill the kinds of things that are typical of someone who can live independently. Within that, there is a range. And again, I think the key message is for folks to understand, and I've said this on other occasions, but I'll say it to this audience, there is such a shortage of housing for the disabled community. And by creating the entity called Cornerstone, as opposed to ETTA, the village is the first project of Cornerstone. And we hope to be involved for decades to come. That doesn't mean that Kathy and I will be involved for decades to come in creating additional housing opportunities for a different range of need. That said, I mean, just for informational purposes, individuals with significant psychiatric or behavioral issues would not be a good fit for this particular building. Again, we want to stress that we're trying to create community that stresses the independent factor. And we will be able to support skill development and skill building, but within a certain range of higher functioning individuals.
That's great. This next question is sort of an amalgam of different questions we've received, but basically, how will families have confidence that their child will be taken care of after they pass, if they're living in the village. What will the staffing look like? What will the security look like? There's just been a number of different questions around this, and I'm hoping we can just kind of group it into one. This is probably a Dr. Held or Kathy question.
Well, I'll start by saying that ETTA wasn't born yesterday. So I think that its reputation of stellar, high quality staffing and services they speak for themselves. So that's the leadership of Cornerstone, even though, it speaks to a broader audience, but I think that its reputation speaks for itself.
And just I think a lot of questions were specifically, will there be on-site staff, questions like that. Maybe if you could just speak to that, or what will this,
So there will be a building manager. This
Great.
is a 64 unit building. There will be a full-time overnight building manager. But again, this is, as Kathy said earlier in the broadcast, this is not congregant housing. This is not a group home. Individuals really need to be able to support their needs. They might have a service support person, but the building itself will not be, quote unquote, taking care of the needs of residents overnight. That really needs to be an individual who's able to handle their personal needs, or with, if they might have an aide, that could potentially be okay, but depends on the situation.
Great.
I just want to elaborate on what Kathy said about how do families have reassurance about the longevity of this and the security of this. So I'm going to get existential for a moment. Look, we all wish that for all of our kids, whether they're neurotypical or special needs. But as Kathy referenced, Etta being 28 years old at Israel Center, the same thing. This is why we want to be in the neighborhood. We want the neighborhood to embrace this. We want the residents to be going out to neighbors. We want neighbors to be coming into the village. We believe this will work. And so an additional layer of reassurance is that the neighborhood is involved. This is not a standalone building that's situated 40 miles out of town. This is in a vital neighborhood that itself has been stable for many, many decades. As long as the neighborhood is stable, I think there will be tremendous support for the residents in this building.
I do want to add, though, on the security, just for information, there is going to be incredible security in the building, as a nice, secure building would be. And I'm sure Richard could, or expand on that. But we're going to, have, what every other, luxury building would have in terms of security. But again, some parents have asked me when they call, well, what if my son wants to go out at night? I said, well, then that's what your son's going to do. So it's not for everyone, because not everybody can make safe decisions. And so it's really for a more, it's not a lockdown facility. So just hope that clarifies.
Thank you, Kathy. That's great. The next question relates to food. Can they cook in their units? And will they have, have their own support services? Maybe just speak more to kind of how the support services will work, and then that cooking question.
Well, again, the support services are person by person. Well, and that is how it works today. That's where the funding comes from. There's no one size fits all anymore. You don't say dinner's at 6 and you have to eat at 6. You can say there is this being offered and there's that being offered, but if you want to stay in your room, there are nice galley kitchens, and residents can stay in their room and cook for themselves. They have choice. They can go out to dinner. There's a lot of choice around that.
Great. This question relates, I think, back to you, Dr. Held. So, there was a group of questions sort of, is this going to be done in lieu of other group homes that ETTA is currently operating? Will this be instead of, or replacing any of the group homes that you're currently, that are being run currently?
Well, we believe very strongly in all models of housing that are successful in supporting the needs of the residents. Our group homes are very successful. They're also embedded in community, in the Valley Village, North Hollywood community. ETTA will continue to run group homes. ETTA will continue to explore opportunities to add more group homes if that comes about. But we believe the future of housing opportunities is more along the lines of what we're developing here at the Village. So we would hopefully be able to create additional opportunities for housing like at the Village. The need is so vast. Kathy, you can probably cite some of the statistics, but the need for housing is so vast, and that's our special area of focus. Look, we live in a city where we're troubled by the homelessness problem. Some people don't have homes. We live in a city we're troubled by the chronic mentally ill that we see around, and they need homes. But this is our focus. This is our special area of interest, which is adults, and particularly Jewish adults, but really adults who are on the spectrum, have other special needs. What community will they have in the future? That's what we're concerned about. And what type of roof over their head, what type of friendship, what type of vocational opportunity. So even within this niche, which is a sub-niche of a niche in terms of housing issues, there is almost a limitless need.
Absolutely. Another question. People are eager to know, when does the Village plan to open? And what should people do if they're interested in residency or in taking tours of the property in the future? Maybe Dr. Held or Kathy.
Okay, well, we're looking at by the end of 2023 of occupancy, and for now, again, the information will be up at the end. There's a phone number and email, and currently I'm responding as promptly as I can to all of the inquiries and working together to have a follow-up phone call with a staff member who does a little intake and puts that family on the interested list, because it's really not a waiting list yet. We're just not there yet. We are so focused on the capital campaign so that we can start breaking ground and start construction and build this beautiful building. And that'll be a large focus next year. We'll be getting a lot of that criteria together.
But we are building community already. I mean, ETTA is that community, and the Village in the Beverlywood area will add to that. So people who are interested should get involved now. And, Eva and Richard, you're so patient. I mean, really, it takes everyone. Sam said it takes a village to make a village. So there's the macro, the micro. But I wonder if either of you want to speak to anything about the building process. I think Kathy mentioned it'll probably take about 3 years, but you've been building in Los Angeles for many, many years. I'm sure it's not a particularly easy task.
No, Eva, you want to handle that one? She's directing the project on a day-to-day basis, so.
So yes, it's interesting that we're having this meeting today, because today was a big day for the project. We had what's called a kickoff meeting with consultants on the project. So I think a lot of people don't know how many people it actually takes to build a project, to design a project like this. We talk about developers, we talk about architects, but really when we think about the design team, I want to say there's probably 40, maybe 50 people involved just on the design side. There's many consultants, structural consultant, electrical, plumbing, mechanical. There's just like so many consultants that are involved. So it takes really a village to design a building like this. So as a process, so today was the big day because the kickoff meeting happened today. It was a long meeting where everybody got together and we talked about the project, the strategies, the best approaches for different design aspects of the project, for engineering, for architecture. And there's going to be an interior designer on board. There's going to be a lighting designer on board. So we're going to be coordinating with many, many people to make sure we design in a way so it serves the residents. So currently, there's several phases to a project. So currently we're in the design development phase, what's called DD phase. And we're going to be coordinating with other consultants a lot. It's a very intense part of the project. And then what's going to happen, the project will be submitted to building and safety services. It will be plan checked, and then we will get a permit. And then the construction will begin. It's hard to say how long this will take because, you know, once some things are out of our hands, we have to work with the city agencies to make sure things happen on time. Then the project will be under construction. I'm not sure, I don't know if it has been determined, the length of construction has been determined, but yeah, and then there will be a grand opening.
That's great. Two more quick questions. I know we have about 3 minutes here left, and I'm just trying to get as many as we can. One, will there be kosher food available? Another food question at the village.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
the communal dining room will be under kosher auspices. What individual residents can do as they choose in their own individual apartments, but the communal food area will be under kosher supervision.
And then there was another question, sort of, if we could just clarify the relationship between ETTA and Cornerstone and how they all fit together on the project.
Sam, do you want to take that?
Sure. ETTA is the service provider, is one of the leading service providers actually in the country in this field. And Cornerstone is the owner of the property, and there will be a relationship, contractual relationship between the two. But Cornerstone has its own leadership, its own governance, and is seeking its own private funding to make this happen. There's some questions about, will this be a public project? But this is relying on the generosity of people in the community to make this a reality. And it is incumbent, like Kathy said, is that the community steps up to make this a reality, because we can't take it for granted. There are millions of dollars that need to be raised in the near future to make this a reality. And that's what Cornerstone is set up to do, is to help make this vision of this village a reality, and hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years, like Ava said.
I also just want to add that ETTA obviously will be one of the service providers, but you can't do that anymore. You really have to be, it's really anyone's choice if they want to. There will be other service providers as well, but just because of the nature of how this was inspired, and so many people already know ETTA, so I would imagine a large number of residents will be served by ETTA, but anybody's welcome.
Wonderful. Well, with that, we still have more than 100 people on the line. It really speaks to the tremendous interest and excitement around this project. I know that I speak for Dr. Held and Kathy and the whole team, that there will be many more opportunities to engage on this project in the months ahead. I would just really encourage everybody to take Kathy up on all those offers to get involved. There's so many different ways to get involved, whether as a generous supporter, as Sam said, as someone, which is really important. And I want to again recognize the tremendous leaders the visionary leaders who really saw the opportunity for this project and invested early to make it a reality. And it's a very exciting moment, I know, for them and for everybody here on this call. And so I would encourage you all to get involved in any way you can, whether that's on social media, signing up for the mailing list, connecting with Kathy about being on an interest list, or supporting the project as a donor. And we will be in touch in the months ahead. I want to thank all of our panelists, Sam, Ewa, Jenny, Richard, Kathy, Dr. Held, and Danny got as well. I want to thank all of our participants for joining the call. And we're really, we will be back in touch in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you all so much.